I think the button still worked.
Yeah, I think
we're here.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm doing good.
All right, I want to start off this episode just a little bit differently. I'm trying to build this channel and all that, but one thing that has been kind of a tradition I've sort of been proud of is Layback Law. I think has helped introduce lawyers to a wider audience in many cases. And our newest member on the panel is Ryan C. Mullally, who first appeared last week the week before with Pisco. He's debated Pisco before. And I came across Ryan's channel and I was shocked to see that Ryan doesn't have 1,000 subs. Now, in the past, Chandler Remington had under 1,000 subs, and we got her to over 1,000 subs. Norm Pattis had under 1,000 subs. We got them to over 1,000 subs. So I am hoping while we're doing the show, and I'll probably bring it up again, let's see if we can get Ryan to over 1,000 subs. And I have a pinned tweet here on YouTube, so you can go click that. Should take you over to the channel, or if you look in the description, there's a link to everybody's channel. So don't just give Ryan love, give everybody a little bit of love.
Well, I have a question for Ryan. Why do you look so much more intimidating in your thumbnails?
It's because the magic of AI headshots makes me much more attractive. That's why. Yeah, it turns out sitting on your butt doing law all day for a bunch of years isn't good for your figure. Who knew? Right. But Eric, that's really generous of you, and I deeply appreciate it. Yeah, I have this kind of baby YouTube channel. I've been having a lot of fun with it. The community's growing. We do live streams. We do debates. We have a good time. Analyze Supreme Court law and philosophy. And I think viewers of this channel will enjoy what I do. But I really appreciate you shouting me out like that, Eric, because I think all of us know who do this kind of weird social media game. Getting initial inertia and some momentum is tough. And getting it off the ground, I'm just very, very thankful. And I want to shout out Sean, who's similarly been very helpful to me in getting my channel started.
Very cool. Very cool. And like I said, I like to do that. It's just a thing that I like to do, especially you guys are all generously donating your time, and any way that this can be a help to everyone, please consider, because I don't even want to talk about what the billable hours of this show would be, which would be a complete nightmare. But I'm going to hand it over to Nathaniel Bratti. What are we talking about today?
Are we doing Don Lemon? Is it Don Lemon?
We're doing Don Lemon. Don Lemon. It is the breaking news this morning.
Yes. So as you guys know, Don Lemon has been indicted by a federal grand jury, and he is now in federal custody.
I'm surprised that happened.
See the magistrate.
I am too. And in fact, wasn't the first indictment, wasn't it rejected for some reason?
Well, no. Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
Go ahead. Just to give people a background. So, the first indictment was rejected. The way the federal process usually works is that usually they get indictments before they make arrests, but you can get an arrest warrant signed by a magistrate judge and then go for your indictments if it's a felony, like in this case. So what they did is they tried to have a magistrate judge sign the arrest warrant so they can pick up Don Lemon with the other church protesters. The magistrate judge signed it for the other church protesters and didn't sign it for Don Lemon. Now the theory that was on the table was that the magistrate judge didn't find that Don Lemon was part of the overall criminal conspiracy. And for the conspiracy, you need to have the agreement, the intent, and the overt act. And the judge focused essentially on those three things and said that Don Lemon didn't have an agreement to go into the church and protest. He had an agreement to go into the church and just document what was going on. He waited till they were in before, it's not like he went to the church and oiled the door for the protesters. He waited till they were inside. He went inside, and all throughout the video, he claimed that he was just doing journalism, and he kept saying
allegedly.
Before, during, and after the
journalism.
Before, during, and after the event,
Here
he kept
is
saying
the
that.
here is the ruling from the appeal on this. I don't know if you guys wanted to or had seen this already.
Well,
Yes, I
yes,
see that. Yeah.
So they tried to get it. The judge said no because Don Lemon didn't have the agreement with the rest of the group to go in there and protest. He just was going to go film. So that protected him from that. So then they tried to appeal it to
The Eighth Circuit.
The Eighth Circuit. They also went to but everybody said essentially no. One concurring judge said, yeah, there may be something here, but essentially they denied it.
Well,
So
he said you have to go do other things. You know, normally like in administrative law, you have to exhaust all your remedies. The Eighth Circuit has said we're not granting it, and then one judge went further to say, I'm not going to grant it. You do have a case here if you go exercise all your other options first.
So is it this, Sean? The government has failed to establish that it has no other adequate means of obtaining the requested relief.
Yeah, and that's the appeals court's way of saying, look, we could do it, but we'd rather you guys take care of it than us get involved. And that's actually a fair thing. I would rather them say, look, we've tried to do it. This court full of commies won't help us. You know, then the Eighth Circuit could step in and say, okay, yeah, cool, we'll help.
Well, and you know, I don't know, maybe Nate, if you know the answer to this, but like Nate was describing why the conspiracy charge, the 18 USC 241, might not have passed muster with the magistrate judge, but I don't understand how the FACE Act charges wouldn't have passed muster on the basis of lack of conspiracy, because you can violate the FACE Act
for Keith Ellison.
On your own. But yeah, I mean, you can cure it by just getting a grand jury indictment, which is what they did. So
yeah, I think weren't the other ones not charged with the FACE Act? Weren't they?
A couple of them weren't.
Yeah,
a couple of them weren't. But like the goober with the beard who goes and was trying to kick off the National Guardsman in DC, and he shows up everywhere. He did get both of them. I think he's the only one that got both. Everybody else got the conspiracy only.
I think like just my 2 cents. I think that's a mistake from a prosecutorial standpoint, because 18 USC 241, you know, the conspiracy against rights. I don't know if it's totally clear that law applies when there's no government intervention. Like, you know, like your right to religious exercise is actually a right against the government preventing you from having religious exercise. So if it's just private citizens and private citizens, it's not entirely clear to me that would work.
Well, Ryan, if I went and scared people away from the right to vote, you're not necessarily, you know.
Well, there's the government element. You're voting. Where are you voting? You're voting with the government.
Yeah, but right? I mean, they said any constitutionally protected right.
Yeah, so. But is your First Amendment right a right to worship, or is it a right to not be prevented by the government from worship?
Well, it's both. Remember, there's two parts of the First Amendment. There's an establishment clause and a free exercise clause. So, and Sean makes a good point there, which is that, you know, it is the conspiracy. It's the KKK Act, the conspiracy to deprive people of their right, and that's what we're seeing here. I understand the limitations on government, but there are other actions here that make things criminal.
But I get what Ryan's saying. He's essentially saying a belt and suspenders approach, because the belt might fail, meaning that it might only apply to government actions as opposed to
and if you charge 241 is, you know, it prevents.
Can you guys go into a little bit of layman talk, because you're rattling numbers and you're starting to get in the weeds, and I know my blonde head is straining at the moment. So just kind of, if you can, just break it down in some layman terms. I apologize.
No problem. This is the danger of collecting lawyers as they start talking legalese. 18 USC 241, the conspiracy against rights law, which is the KKK Act, or part of it is what people refer to it as. The pertinent part says, if two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having exercised the same, and then it continues and describes the crime. And it was totally what you read exactly where I was going. It's a belt and suspenders thing. It's conspiracy against constitutional rights, but it also protects you from conspiracies against things secured by laws. And the FACE Act is a law. So you could also, the way the Biden administration charged people who were protesting outside of abortion clinics is they said you were violating the FACE Act and you were also conspiring under 18 U.S.C. 241 to violate the FACE Act, right? So you have the belt and the suspenders. So it strikes me as odd to only put the 241 charge on when you could get both.
Well, they did try to get both. They, like, in the charging document where the judge scratched it out, it said conspiracy to violate the FACE Act. Like, they actually said it, and this judge, the magistrate was like, well, no, I'm not doing this because my wife will get mad at me, probably.
Well, there were, I think the issue with the FACE Act, from what I've been hearing liberal lawyers saying, is that there's a force element, and there was some other element, a threat of force and something else, and or blocking and something like that. And they were saying that that element, the force, threat of force, and blocking access didn't apply to some of the people, because like Don Lemon, he didn't block access and he didn't use any force, and the other two people, but the wild guy did, though. You joined
the, we were only going to rob the gas station. I didn't know they were going to blow that guy's head off. I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, his own actions in his own videos where he's interviewing the pastor and things like that is clearly preventing the pastor from giving his sermon because he's pulling him down and interviewing him. He's in the mix. It's like when they talk about nature documentarists and they say, like, don't interfere, just sort of observe. Well, he's now interfering, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the reasons I wanted to come on today, and I know that is because Nate and I had a great conversation on last week's Laid Back Lose about this, and I never got to really adequately address the equal protection issue. We didn't get into that, and I had to leave. And that is that basically the bar has been lowered. And Nate brings up, he says his friends on the liberal side or the left side are getting hyper technical with this, but I would say that basically the January 6th rule, lowering the bar and applying this the way it has been, is now being applied back at the left. And so, and the people on the right tend to be very rules-based, and this is the danger of the kind of ratcheting down of what we're applying and the broadening of the scope of these statutes and the government power, is that now what's being applied is the January 6th rules, and everybody should be prosecuted to the fullest extent and put away in bars to the max based on that precedent.
But is that applying the law, or is that becoming lawfare? Because I guess that would be the critique, is that you have lawfare going both directions, and is that a good thing?
Sometimes if you're equally applying lawfare, that's the only answer. And I mean, for those people on the left who are saying, oh, this doesn't count, fine, we're going to start doing this game of, we're not blocking you in the abortion clinic, we're just running around acting like goobers. Like, oh no, they are not going to tolerate that at all. So it's a very disingenuous argument. Like, well, I'm just in here. I'm not hurting you. You can still go murder babies. I'm just standing here screaming like a lunatic.
I mean, he wasn't screaming like a lunatic, though, and I think that's the problem. But in his case, because we're kind of looking at him. The others, I think everybody agrees. Yeah, you conspired, you did it, all guilty. I feel like the question is whether Don Lemon has slipped by on the edge by saying, hey, I'm not with them, I'm just documenting. And I think, Nate, you said, he didn't open the door, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, and he may be able to
pointed out in chat that I forgot too, that Don Lemon was asked to leave by the pastor and refused to.
Yeah, but that would give you a maybe simple trespass. But what I would say is that with the Don Lemon particularly, I think the issue with Don Lemon comes twofold. The first is, what was his intent? If his intent was to go in and protest, then but he said his intent multiple times on the stream. I intend to go cover the protest. And the second piece I think people forget is foreknowledge is not enough. The fact that this is going to happen is not enough to get the conspiracy. You have to have the agreement to do the crime or to benefit from it. And he didn't have any of that. Now, some people are trying to make the argument that filming it is a benefit because you're singing it out to the world, and that's a benefit in of itself. But then you run into the First Amendment, then free press issue. So I think I think conviction here is going to be extremely hard, because you do have someone who, before the incident, said, my intent is to go in and film a protest, not protest. When he's inside the place, I'm just filming a protest. And then afterwards, hey, I was here with these people and we were just filming. So right now,
he wasn't just filming.
But what I'm saying is you got protests and you have. Look, I'm saying, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, what bothers me about and I take your point, because I think that that is going to be an issue that'll be litigated. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk, but in the Biden years, there was a woman who got prosecuted under the FACE Act, and I think 241 also, for silently praying outside of an abortion clinic. So if we're saying that silent prayer and protest is forcibly interfering with your right to access this abortion clinic, but entering,
prayer is powerful, brother.
Refusing to leave and interrupting services is not. I don't think that's a lawfare thing. I mean, like, could you imagine if somebody entered the abortion clinic, stood inside the doctor's office while you're having the exam, and said, "Oh, I'm not here to interfere."
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah. Hey, doctor, how's it feel? Because you're just murdering babies. You know that, you evil fucking murderer. You're just evil and horrible. Don't you realize what you're doing? I'm just here asking questions, but you're murdering these babies. And man,
okay, Sean, thanks for the monetization bump.
I'm sorry. That's what Don Lemon did, basically.
No, you already lost that with the KKK comment.
Well, I'm working on it here. Let's have a tenuous string, if you will.
I guess what I'm saying is, and I'm not endorsing this. I think the FACE Act is like a terrible law that should never have been passed. And I think it's bizarre to have a law that protects churches and abortion clinics in the same breath. The whole thing is an absurd law, but it is the law. And people have been prosecuted under it. So it's hard for me to square the silent prayer example with the Don Lemon example and say the silent prayer is the problem and Don Lemon isn't.
But would it be fair to say you're making more of a...
It's the
because it seems like you guys are making...
Hold on, everybody's talking at once.
It seems like you guys are making the an equal protection argument instead of unjust enforcement, right? We're enforcing it against one group but not another group. But I'm not sure that makes the argument that in this particular situation, it's also the same, because I think in those other examples, their intent was, well, would it be credible to say their intent was to try to stop the access to abortion? Where I think here, could you credibly say that Don Lemon's intent was to protest in that church? And I think there was a
reporter at January 6th a person who was acting as a citizen reporter who was also prosecuted and given a prison term. So I mean, this is the rules that were made, and this is the rules. And I'm with you, Nate, and I don't like this, and I'm with, I don't like the way this is going forward, but the bar has been lowered, and this is the standard. And if this is not prosecuted at the same vigor and with the same standard as it is against the right, then it will continue on as a weapon against a weapon that will be used and abused. So if we all agree that the thing should be repealed, then let's repeal it. But otherwise, let's have it equally applied to everybody, regardless of ideology. And that's what's being done. And I don't see any other way forward except to do that.
I mean, to me, I view the point Nate made, which I think is a good point, as more of a question as to whether there's a First Amendment as applied challenge to using the law in this way. Because like the law says you can't forcibly interfere. And if silent prayer is forcibly interfering, then entering and recording must also be forcibly interfering logically. But there might be an argument that you applying the law in this way would violate the First Amendment's protection of freedom of the press. Which is an interesting point, and I certainly don't have a view on that. I think I would need to see briefing on that, or at least research it, because that's a complicated question.
So, and you guys all think that, like, because the pastor did at this moment asked him to leave, right?
Right.
Does that play into the equation that we asked you to leave and you didn't leave? Now, does that change the calculus? Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I think it removes the First Amendment protections.
Well, I think it's like Nate. He's saying, I'm just here to record this and document it. But your intent is inferred through your actions just as well. Like he's going up to people, and notice he's basically chiding them. He's not like, oh, okay, that's an interesting opinion, and walks away. He sits there and starts breaking their balls. Like the one guy says, like, I wouldn't run up into your house to do this. And, Don Lemon vapor locked for a second. Like, oh, God, that's a good point. Like, he wasn't, like he was clearly there with a view, with an angle to push. And when he went up to the pastor and he's right up on the pastor, and the pastor's just like, get away, like, give me a little room here. Don Lemon does the whole "don't touch me" thing. Like, I'm surprised Don Lemon didn't fall down. Like, oh my god, he hurt me. But
just flopping.
Yeah, like you don't get to say like, yeah, this is what you get. It shouldn't be fun. And then he sits there with them while they're gloating and cheering at the end, while that guy's out there harassing, like, oh, you privileged white people. Like, at some point, your actions clearly, like, I'm just here to document. You're not. You're a participant. And you're the propaganda arm of it.
We got a good question here. If I can just add this real quick. He bought them coffee afterwards, which is true. They went to like a don't.
It can be.
Isn't that? Yeah, but after the fact though, would that even matter?
He bought the parishioners coffee, or the crew.
He bought coffee for a group of people, and I'm not positive it's the crew.
I can argue it is. Yeah, you're.
If your people are bringing up the,
are you compensating?
Well, yeah, that's providing support. You know, it's like in the military terms, and I don't know if they apply here, but that would be giving comfort to the enemy, so to speak.
Well,
and that would imply a confederacy with them. Sorry, go, Steve.
Well, that people are saying about the we, that he talks about we, but there's another part of the we that is important, and that he says we are here to make them uncomfortable, which doesn't to them, you know, and so it's not just we as in I'm part of this group, which he's clearly ideologically joined by them, right? But it's also the fact that we are going to go disrupt, and I'm going to record it so that I can show these people being uncomfortable, which really plays. I mean, it's much worse than the praying at the abortion clinic. And so this is an easier.
You're right, because Steve, the them does solidify it. It's not like just a colloquial, like, oh, we're all going there, you know, like we're all going at the same time. But when he says them, he is adding a definitive separation of himself being included with the people.
But then I would also ask though, because we have to make an inference off the we, right? We. But then you do have his direct statements. I am not with them. I am not going to protest. Like he does have those direct statements. So it's like we can make the inference of the we, but then I think you would still.
I am not with them, but I 100% agree with them in every way, shape.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. I think Eric has it up right now, so we can actually hear exactly what he says. Because I think you guys are right, but I think it's just I think there's enough of probable
before
cause.
He went in. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and
into Minneapolis a little bit ago, and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? So and as it turns out, because we're like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? So the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance.
Was it, Eric?
Yes.
This is MAGA country.
Keeping Jussie alive. Thank you.
Next with the regards to lawfare, if two people agree to a boxing match and one brings brass knuckles, the other is required to follow suit. It's clear they didn't want a fair fight. Interesting. Okay. I don't know if you guys have any feelings on that. Go ahead, Eric.
I don't have feelings. I'm just kind of going. I don't quite understand the analogy, so I'm not.
I think he's saying, like, at this point now, if they abuse the law and put a lady in jail for just praying, you know, we got to go full tilt.
Yeah.
Once Pandora's box is open, you're a fool to shut it yourself.
What I worry about.
Did that happen in the same state?
No, but it was a federal prosecution.
Okay, federal prosecution.
Maybe
from the outside looking into this, I'm weirded out. Now, over here, if the same, let's say, for instance, let's run into this. Is this a private church?
Yeah.
Well, everything is a private church over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We over here we have a state church and we have the others. the weird
State
ones.
church, nothing comforting.
Yeah,
as an American, that sends chills down my spine. I'm sorry. No judgment.
Yeah, I'm weirded out by your, and you would be, what state church, is that a thing? No, well, according to the law, not anymore, but it still is because we collect taxes. but looking at it from my point of view here is, as law over here, it would have been, he has a camera, he has his crew, he has his everything. All of a sudden, that gets it this over here at least to a heightened level of protection. But you still can't go into a church just like that, because there are people in there who also have a heightened level of protection, leveling that playing field out. Then it comes down to what was actually going on, and then you have to analyze the language used. So
based
over
on
here it would be, but not not on a federal level, but it would be disruptive.
Based on what Nick just said, does it change anyone's perspective if Don never went into the church, just stayed outside and reported it, and even cheered him on?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think you commit a crime then.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, particularly if he wasn't obstructing people from entering, if he was just recording, there'd be no question.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like the FACE Act, like I said, it's a really weird law, but it really turns on the forcefully interfering prong. And to forcefully interfere with religious observances, you need to be blocking someone from getting in. You need to be stopping the pastor from giving the sermon. Things like this.
Under the silent prayer example outside the abortion clinic, wouldn't him being outside recording it be intimidating people to not go in and all of that?
That's why that charge was so crazy. Like, that's why people lost their mind when that charge came out, because it's like, if you're going to say that the force element is met by kind of just like sitting and not moving while praying, then the force element is met by anything, right? I mean, like you're saying your physical presence while immobile is forceful. That's a pretty low bar.
But we do have to also understand too, like I know, like in the 8th Circuit, for instance, they have a force requirement for like 18 USC 111, but like the 3rd Circuit doesn't have that force like this. So there are certain different circuits that may treat things differently. I'm not sure if the woman praying is in the same place, but each one could treat those elements just a tad bit different, and they're generally more restrictive here in Minnesota. So.
One thing I worry about, because we're talking about the lawfare going back and forth, that's kind of like a sideline conversation that is happening. And I don't know, and maybe I'm a little paranoid about stuff, but I don't know if you guys remember Jeff from Legal Vices.
Yes.
But he came on here, a few times, from time to time. And he talked about something, because there was a lot of lawfare going on against Donald Trump when he was running, et cetera. And he mentioned that he worried that we here in the States were going to become like South Korea. And apparently he was saying that in South Korea, every president that loses gets locked up by the next president who wins. And
I remember that.
This headline is from January 13th, by the way. And this is the latest round of what's happening in South Korea. Prosecutors seek death penalty for ex-South Korean President Yoon. What? So I'm not trying to be overly paranoid here, but I'm just, the slippery slope angle of, I think you've got to be careful with lawfare and the tit for tat of, they did it, we do it, they do it, did it, they do it. It can really get out of hand. I'm not saying that we are South Korea, but I just wanted to, bring up the extreme case of it. And, where does it stop? Because then it's like, I'm in a state right now in Virginia, and I feel like the new governor has been influenced by Trump. She's literally run out a raft of executive orders that to me look like consolidating power. So,
I mean, Eric, you are 100% right. I've been on this train for years now, and I know I wasn't always public, so I just take my word for what my position was. I thought prosecuting Trump was going to open Pandora's box the way it was. And I think the box is open and we're seeing it play out in exactly the way that you just said, Eric. And I think the thing that lay people don't realize is how much law there is in this country. Like, I can guarantee you everybody watching this stream has violated a federal law at some point in the last couple months.
There's a book, three
felonies a day. Three felonies a day, right?
It's a guarantee. And the system works because of the concept called prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors are just not supposed to charge everything that is in some sense criminal, and only charge when it's appropriate on some kind of consensus. But when you get into an election cycle where people are voting for vendetta prosecutions because they did it to our guy, now we're going to do it to their guy, discretion is no longer going to protect you. And you're left with the 3 felonies a day. And that's pretty scary because, you know, in that world, anybody could get prosecuted at any point if it becomes politically, you know, expedient to do so.
Let me take you to the super chat. I've seen no evidence of this, but what if they found that he was coordinating as their PR guy? I think Nate's right. It's a weak case, but fishing trip, for instance.
He was basically he was operating as their
PR guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that would definitely put him in the conspiracy realm for sure. If there are messages, emails, things like that going back and forth.
So Don Lemon is now Don Le Sandwich Jabron.
Is it Hambon? I don't know what the J is.
Reporters should report the news, not participate and help coordinate the throughout attack. Had he only reported, then he should be protected. So I mean, we have some Don Lemon reporters here.
Stopping a pastor who's had his service interrupted by saying, "How do you feel about this?" is one thing. I agree that's really just maybe reporting the news. But the fact that he was inside, he was asked to leave, he used the we several times. I think all of that is the problem.
Oh, somebody explained that the hambon, it's ham sandwich. That's what they were saying. The yambon.
Well, when Don Lemon yelled at the preacher and said, "Don't push me," when he was the one pushing into the preacher, that's true. Would that be considered? How would that be considered? What would that be considered under the law? It could be, and I think that goes to Ryan's FACE Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because now you're actually, you know, that can get into that. If a journalist has knowledge of a skew pew pew and enters only to record, is that not a crime? No, that is not a crime. There's a famous case out of Las Vegas for this. And in Las Vegas, there were 2 guys who go into a casino bathroom. One of the guys, there's a young black girl in the bathroom.
Hold on, would this be on point though? That wasn't a journalist.
No, but it's for anybody though.
I know what Nate's saying.
This is for anybody. So they went into the bathroom. The friend says he looked at his friend's eyes and saw something bad was going to happen. The guy grabs the girl and does whatever. Murder happens, and the person, he doesn't do anything. The guy grabs the girl. He just walks out. He just walks out, goes to the whole tax and stuff, and goes home. They tried to charge him because they're like, "Why didn't you tell the police? Why did you do this?" And they couldn't charge him at all because he didn't have any right. He didn't have any he wasn't like
he had no legal duty.
To actually do that. So he was and there was like a huge thing they were trying to, but since he had no legal duty to do it, you had no problem. So even with the knowledge, foreknowledge, and that's what we've been saying, foreknowledge is not enough in these situations, especially if the crime is not reported, stripped down. What Don Lemon did, he willingly entered to film a crime. But again, foreknowledge is not enough. Just because you know it's not enough. And the last one before we get back to the talk, again, not happy about it. Jan 6, Mar-a-Lago docs, the prayer. I don't want lawfare, but it's on them to stop, as it is vendetta. The NYC AG ran on putting Trump in jail. That's true. All right, guys. Sorry about the.
You did.
No. And I think all of us would agree. I'm going to put it out there. See if everybody agrees. I shouldn't say that. Everyone would. If somebody abused their office for the purposes of, bad prosecution or whatever, then they should be charged for that very specific crime because they broke the law. They went things against their standards. The problem I see is when you say, okay, they're just part of a team, that team. So because members of that team did these things to my team, we can now do it to other members on their team. That's not quite the same thing as, okay, somebody broke the law trying to get somebody or hem them up on bad charges, and we were going to prosecute them for abusing their position. That is appropriate, in my opinion, all day, every day. If you're, using your position inappropriately, then you should be charged.
Yeah,
sure.
but the problem is that's all nice and theoretical, but the reality of the past decade has been that nobody's getting charged. All these people are getting away with these things without consequences. And I'll put as example number one, Lois Lerner, who weaponized the IRS against conservatives and has suffered no consequences, and in fact gets rewarded by getting probably a professorship or a grant or whatever else. And that happens again and again and again, is that the system has been weaponized.
We don't disagree, and I think Lois Lerner should have been charged, or they should be going after her personally, or whatever. But then a lot of people feel that, okay, you know what, they did that to us, so now we are in power. Let's go after leftist institutions with our IRS or our thing. And I'm saying that's kind of a problem because we're not addressing the original sin, we're applying it to others.
That is so long. That is so past. There's so many things that have been done to conservatives and the right that have gone unpunished, unrecognized, and been rewarded. I mean, I'm sad.
But when am I excusing that? Am I excusing that? I'm saying that they should go after them. Pam Bondi, wake up, get off Fox, go to do your job. 100% agree on all of that.
So I think there's two off ramps that we have to get out of this mess we're in. Because I agree, this is a huge mess, and the problem when you get into a vendetta cycle, it's like, how do you get out, right? Because getting out's tricky. There's basically two options as far as I've figured it out. One is if President Trump or some future president just does sweeping pardons on his way out the door. He pardons everyone who ever worked for him, everyone who's ever seen him, everyone who's ever...
Probably what he's going to do.
Like, everybody's pardoned. So then there's just no one to prosecute, right? Like that's one option.
A reset.
Sort of a Biden approach.
Yeah. Then the other option that I think is more long-term, but I think would be good, is that we've had this kind of false separation in the executive branch. And I'm a unitary executive guy, so I don't. Man. So like, I've been putting my cards on the table.
Total
I am
power.
a unitary executive. But no,
well, hold on. Just explain to that for the
what is that?
So they know.
If in constitutional terms, if you believe in the unitary executive theory, the Constitution says the executive power is vested in the president, not some of it.
Yes,
all of it. So attempts to strip the president of executive power are constitutionally inappropriate. It should all be his power. That's what the Constitution says. And one of the things that we've had over the years are these false separations, where like the IRS example you gave is a really good one. Like the IRS goes after conservatives. And then if you ask the president, he's going to say, oh, well, I didn't tell them to do that. They have all this independence. And, and there's this false separation. But it's like, no. You're the executive. If the executive branch does something and it's good, you get the credit. If they do something and it's bad, you get the political blame because you're the executive. And politically, in the long run, when the executive is accountable politically for all the things the underlings do, good or bad, I think the people will start voting differently. Because right now you have this, it's weird.
So I agree with you.
The idea that DOJ is fully independent of the president. It's not. It never has been. It's false.
Nobody understands this. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with someone who didn't understand this. And I was trying to explain to them that the president has always had this authority since Washington, all of the authority. And the fact that you're now just realizing that doesn't mean that it's new or Trump is doing something radical. It's always been this.
Yeah, well, it's more of, it's not that Trump's the first guy to do it. Trump's just the first guy to tell you he's he's sticking his hand in your pocket and taking your wallet. Everybody else is just quiet about it. Like, this stuff has happened and it's very clear that it's happened. It's just there's always been kind of plausible deniability for it. But no, Trump's just like, yeah, I sent him to go do it. So what?
That's the exact right word, plausible deniability. I thought, like, think about this, right? Like prior to Trump, people said that the DOJ was fully independent of the president. You can believe that if you want. I could
ask Richard Nixon.
I could tell you.
What's the Saturday Night Massacre?
Yeah, but like, let's imagine President Bernie Sanders was elected, right? And he'd been campaigning on all the goons in Wall Street who are stealing from everyday Americans. And then a day after he takes office, it turns out there's a scandal in Wall Street and they've been stealing your pensions. There's actually a huge Wall Street crime. And he picks up the phone and he calls the attorney general and says, you got to investigate this. And his lawyer goes, oh, no, sir. You can't call the attorney general and ask her to investigate the crime on the issue you ran on. They're fully independent. Like, it's a joke. Like, obviously he'd make that call. And obviously the attorney general would listen, and then the attorney general would do her job and investigate. Like,
if the attorney general said no, the attorney general gets fired.
Exactly.
Well, isn't that why there are, quote, special prosecutors?
Well,
because like under Clinton, because it is his DOJ. So if there's a question or a conflict, a special prosecutor is supposed to have independent authority to do these jobs. Or am I wrong?
Well, the special prosecutor, that's Morrison. And I know all the lawyers here know Morrison and Scalia, right? Scalia was right. Scalia was right. So that's what. So we're talking about unitary.
What is Morrison? Hold on, Nate. You're doing it now.
So that's true. I am. So Morrison is a case. It was an 8-1 Supreme Court decision where Scalia was brand new on the court, and they were passing the legislation to allow the special prosecutor, essentially a fourth branch of government. This would be somebody because they felt they needed somebody to investigate the executive branch, but the investigation tools were in the executive branch, so they kind of made this like special prosecutor, which was like he works for the executive, he can use executive stuff, but he's really not part of the executive. And the Supreme Court let it through with 8-1, but Scalia held the line and said no, the executive authority is invested in the executive, so this law is unconstitutional. Fast forward, he comes out, he's right. Everybody unanimously believes that he was right. That was unconstitutional. So now you have special prosecutors who work under the Justice Department. They called special counsels. That's Robert Mueller and stuff like that.
Which is fair. Then that's another branch, or somebody working under Congress.
No, they are under the executive branch. They're paid.
They're still under the DOJ.
Yeah, they're still under the DOJ, and the president now has control. The president can actually fire special counsels.
Like Jack Smith could have got fired.
Yeah, and just to defend, like I said, if you believe in unitary executive theory, the special counsel provision in Morrison took the executive power from the president and gave it to the special prosecutor. But you can't do that because all the executive power is the president's. So how do you can't carve it up like that, would be the constitutional theory. And
I would argue that Jack Smith was actually working for Biden the whole damn time. I mean, ultimately, his goals, I think, were in alignment with the Biden administration.
Yeah, so that's the legal argument. In terms of what I just said, the policy argument is exactly what you just said. Like, yeah, they're separate, but if you want to get a conviction, you hire somebody that hates the guy. And if you want to, if you want to get an acquittal, you hire someone that loves the guy. So like, yeah, it's separate, but you control the hiring. So is it like it has that kind of like false separation that makes me nervous.
So what is the recourse? Is it Congress? Is it Congress having hearings and ultimately leading to impeachment, etc.?
Impeachment is the only recourse. Impeachment.
No, I don't agree. No, one of the problems, and we're all focused on the president because that's the big jelly bean in this room, right? But there is a problem in our country about Congress abdicating its responsibility and its power by legislating creating the deep state, empowering agencies, offloading the responsibilities to third parties, to other government and the executive, and washing their hands. And what somebody said about plausible deniability, so that your congressman can be plausibly deny that they have, I've done this, I passed a law, I did this. The one thing that could happen that I really think we should do is we should have go back to normal budgeting, where you have single items voted on rather than these gigantic everything under the sun bills that just offload it. I mean, that's ridiculous. The Congress should be doing its job, should be working, and part of the, and we really need, I gotta say, we really need fair election reform, because I think that, this is the essential thing. Once the left undermines our faith in our elections, which they've been actively doing, the country is basically over. So we really need to provide for fair elections and have that across the board so everybody will have confidence with whatever outcome we have. And the Congress has a role in budgeting and line iteming and zeroing things out when there's fraud or when there's no political, like for example, we talk about the FACE Act. They could repeal the FACE Act. And if we all agree that these things are being weaponized against them, they should modify it. So Congress has abdicated a lot of responsibility, and they have more than just impeachment. They have a lot of power. They are Article 1.
Let me let MLS get a second.
No, I was just going to say, if you don't like what the president is doing, if you think the president is taking the country down the wrong path, as a member of Congress or anything else, the only recourse is impeachment. The reason why we had these special prosecutors come up in the first place is because they were essentially trying to criminalize some activity of the executive branch short of impeachment. But the Constitution is clear that that is your only recourse when we're talking about the president. I agree with Steve, though, that eliminating a lot of these laws could be a very good starting point and should be a very good starting point.
I just want to take a quick break to do two things. Number one, people, I've put a link in the chat, and you're doing the same thing. And we're trying to get Ryan over 1,000. He's at 686. The link
There's
is right
1,300 people watching.
Just click that
1,300
link.
people are watching
Here is
right
the
now.
link.
If only 1/3 of you decided to subscribe, boom, he's over the top, guys. 686. We can get him there. We really can. Please consider it. We're at 310. 310. So, I mean, 1,377. We can do it. Please consider it. Let's help the guy get over the top.
That's right. Link
it really does.
Link is in the chat. There's no excuses now.
and now you have heard the guy. Okay, he's thoughtful. He does a good job here. He goes against Pisco, so he's automatically a hero. Anybody who beats Pisco deserves extra love. And if you don't like that, you'll subscribe because you hate him and want to go against him. So either way, it's worth watching. So
well, you guys are absolute princes. And to pick up on, I think that, let's just do the WWE thing. Pisco does run his mouth a lot. I've done 2 formal debates against Pisco that were scored by judges or the voting, and I'm 2-0. So if you want to see somebody beat Pisco up on the law, that's on my channel too. That's go watch the debates, watch Pisco.
I just sit back and eat popcorn when he's going off.
I'm going to use this as a segue, actually, because the other story that was mentioned in the description, I think we should get to it, is the latest video on Alex Pretti. However, a lot of things have happened.
Super chats, because these super chats are with.
Let's do the super chats, then we'll jump to that. Okay,
all
cool.
Right, so you can't infringe on someone's First Amendment right. What would you do if someone came into your house, interviewed you, and they didn't leave because they were exercising their First Amendment right?
Ooh, well, number one, personal property is not quite the same.
Yeah, and my house isn't open to the public. Like the church
but the church is open to the public for people to come in and do the church stuff and praise the baby Jesus. It's not open hours and open mic night. I mean, it's just like college. I can go to Cleveland State University and start screaming like a lunatic in the lecture hall. I mean, it's open, it's public property, it's government property. But I'm not like, that's not like, we're not doing that right now.
Well, hold on. It allows you to go in, but then when you get there, you have to act appropriately. Would that be fair? Right. Kind of like a bar, restaurant, church, any public place.
Yeah. January 6th, not in office. Prayer, not in office. With respect to team, the problem is I've been forced onto a team because I want on their team. They've pushed us or them. Again, keep on hiding, bring brass knuckles. All right, January 6th. Here we go. Big problem is this will be tied to liberal courts. There will be pride in liberal
This is going to be a big problem for
no charges anywhere will stick or be convicted votes. Sucks, but the will go scot.
I think it's they.
But they will all go.
People are trying to save on character space.
I get it. Keep in mind, South Korean presidents are constantly arrested after leaving office because of their intense political polarization and
that's what I'm saying.
Government corruption tied to the chaebols. They are a corruptocracy, not a
corruptocracy, which many people would argue. I mean, let's be honest. The United States, there's a very strong corporate influence. Can we talk about Silicon Valley? Who's always showing up in the White House? What happened during that thing 5 years ago that we can still never really say out loud, or we get in trouble on YouTube that made people cough? Why is it that mom and pop hardware stores weren't allowed to be open because they weren't necessary, but Home Depot was necessary? So while we may not be fully a corrupt, I can't even say the word, but anyway, fully that, we definitely do have a bit of a corporate leaning, I think, if we're going to be fair.
Lawyers always deserve extra love. Have you seen
I don't know about that.
items lawyers put up with? And this
categorically false. All of my clients are blameless angels. They've never done anything wrong, and they just hired a lawyer because everyone's out to get them. I reject that statement, but thanks for the chat.
Ryan, by the way, you bring up a good point that a lot of people don't realize. When I was covering, for example, Marilyn Manson, one of the witnesses went on and trashed her lawyer, saying, I got put up for this and put up for that. And I came to learn, because of the company I keep, all these lawyers, that you guys really can't talk trash about your clients. You really have no recourse. So if you have a client and then the client says, hey, Ryan is a deceitful scumbag who is just terrible, and as long as they don't directly do something, you kind of have to shut up and take it. Because they can discuss their case all day, but you really can't because of the privilege.
Like review websites, they can leave a bad review, and I can't go, well, here's X, Y, and Z of what happened there. It's like, yeah, you just got to deal with it.
No, you can't say they didn't pay their bills.
Yeah.
The truth about lawyers is that we have ethical and fiduciary obligations to our clients, right? Like I'll tell you right now, you guys have done me an incredible solid. You've been shouting out my channel. I'm deeply grateful. And despite the warm affection I have for you, if one of my clients called me right now and said, I have an emergency, I would immediately get off stream and leave you in the lurch, because in the hierarchy of obligations, there's no question what comes first, right? Like, and that's just what the law is. You have to, people are hiring you to put their interests above your own. That's what being a lawyer is.
100%. And our value is still being dictated. We're at 750, folks. Let's see if we can
get that. Look at that.
Yes.
Last super chat before we get into the next story. Question. You have more than one constitutional right involved. Do they need to weigh with is more important? Which is more important?
They're both probably equally important. It's just going to be like, I understand the idea that we generally don't want to prosecute journalists, because there is the idea we want journalists to be able to kind of expose and share with the world what's going on, but that's going to be the real rub here.
But take this into into context and out of context. They're inside of a church.
Yes.
When the reporter and the protesters go into the church. Now, assuming the church is taking place in the public square, and the protesters and the reporters show up at the public square, I don't think there's any violation.
And then
there is a concept of balancing, and that is that we have a whole list of rights, and oftentimes those rights do come into conflict, and part of it's easy for people to think of things as absolute. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I'm a Second Amendment absolutist, right? But the fact is that there are multiple rights, and oftentimes they come into conflict, and that's why courts often do what they call a balancing test.
And you have to be careful.
And they'll balance. And what potentially criminal was saying, Sean was saying, is absolutely 100% correct, and that is that a church is generally there for worshiping. And that is the context of this, not reporting. So if all the church went into a reporter's office and held a prayer vigil while they're live broadcasting the news, that would be as inappropriate as the news coming into the church and interfering there. So, when you look at the balancing equation, you have to look at the overall context. And it's a gray area. It's not absolute. There's no hard and fast rules. It's judgment calls based on reasonable people.
And to add to the point earlier about whether or not the courts are going to be trusted to work all this stuff out, my understanding, and maybe the criminal guys who do more criminal law than me can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way this would play out in the prosecution with Don Lemon's First Amendment rights as a journalist, that would be litigated pre-trial. I don't think that would be a jury question. So, because that's pure law. So that would be.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think so.
Criminal guy. Sean might feel this, but I love special instructions related to that. So, you might, because there's a factual question and there's a legal question. So, as a good criminal defense lawyer, we'll try to frame it in the guise of a factual question. Was Don Lemon's intent to report or was it to interfere? That's a factual question for a jury, and I would definitely push for that as a trial guy.
Oh yeah, they're gonna play the First Amendment card the whole time.
I guess my question is, like, in motion practice before trial, could they tee it up, like, assuming they find that
you mean like a motion in limine against it?
Yeah.
And you do both.
We have to wait for a full trial to see this go up to the circuit and maybe the Supreme Court, or are we going to be able to see this in motion practice and learn whether the First Amendment protects effectively?
The prosecution's definitely going to try to keep Steve's proposed jury instruction out.
Yes,
and that's going to be quite a bit of litigation there. Motion practice.
The way that's a really good point.
The way I see it playing out, kind of what you're saying, though, Ryan, is Don Lemon's going to try to get this dismissed, saying I'm a reporter. Mm-hmm. The court's probably going to say no, but the idea that he wouldn't be allowed to say, "Well, I'm a reporter," I'm doing this just to be a reporter. You're not necessarily arguing the First Amendment, but you're just saying, like, look, I didn't have the intent, and you could argue. I mean, because that's at that point of saying, I had no intent to break this law, which you have to have an intent to do. So I think that they would, they're still going to be able to make the First Amendment argument without, directly saying the First Amendment argument.
All right. Well, let's shift to the calm things in Minnesota a little bit. And speaking of calm, there was actually a debate held on Good Logic with the illustrious Nate the lawyer here. And I know that Ryan actually was reviewing it. I think you were reviewing it last night. And
it's a good review.
It's been kind of a contentious, sadly, not just about the subject matter at hand, but actually the debate itself. There were some problems in the structuring of the debate, and I think it could be argued that there really was no structure. And Joe is a friend. He's been on here so many times, and I am going to speak in a manner that I think is probably his intention. I think Joe, we debate on here all the time. It's a friendly type of thing. I don't think he meant it to be a formal structured debate like Ryan does with his World War I, World War II, etc. debates. I think it was kind of okay, well, I'm going to give you X amount of time. There'll be X amount of time, but it's a little loosey-goosey. And so what wound up happening, and I know Nate doesn't want to bring this up out loud, but I'm going to speak on his behalf, whether he likes it or not. If you look at the way the debate broke down, Bronca essentially had a period of time that he spoke uninterrupted, other than a couple things about, I didn't hear that, or a technical glitch. I think there were 2 interruptions or something like that. Whereas Nate was interrupted, I think 20 plus times, 21, 22, I don't know, like over 20 times in his presentation, which had an effect of throwing Nate off in his presentation, as well as it made his presentation really go very long. And
well,
it's kind of an ugly scenario in that. But
yeah, I don't think anything was intentional. But here is the thing that my friend sent me. So what they did is that they broke it up. So at the beginning of the debate, Joe did tell us that we're going to have 2 openings of uninterrupted time. And the reason why that's important is that we got to know we're debating. You're debating one side, I'm debating the other side. I got to understand what your points are, and then we mix it up afterwards. So the intention was initially just to have that minute of interrupted time. And so Bronco went first, and it was like 13 minutes, something like that. It wasn't crazy.
But hey, let me stop you for a second.
Go ahead. Oh, so this is that was really great. So this is what happened. So here it is. I'm playing.
And I think you want me to share your screen that you have there.
This is Bronco.
Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, if we could. So portion. So I stuck it in.
So I did the same thing.
In full disclosures.
and then it goes on for another like X amount of minutes. Then you'll see another. So he did this for Bronca's opening, and Bronca wound up having 2, and then it was like at the end, it was here.
There cannot be a conviction. As a matter of law, this would be a legally justified shooting.
So that was Bronca. Now, when it came to me, so they did the same thing to me. Every time I spoke, it was just sped up. And every time I was interrupted, they did that. And it came out to 26 interruptions. And my time speaking was actually 16 minutes. Where Bronca's time was 13 minutes, but my clock is 34 minutes because I had 26 interruptions. And at some points it was like 2 and 3 minutes. Like sometimes it'd be a 2-minute interruption or something like that. So that's where the issue came in. People were saying that this wasn't really a debate. It was kind of like you went in there, one person gave their side, you weren't able to give your side. But I don't think any of this matters because it's kind of like it's old news, and it sometimes
I agree.
Sometimes it
whatever.
happens, it is what it is. I'm happy and it's cool.
So you guys said I did watch it and react to it, not the whole thing because I watched I think the most important parts, and I think my reaction was, and I think I stand by it because I think it's just true, is that when it's very tough when you go to a discussion and a debate breaks out, right? Because like the kind of discussion we're having here, we might disagree, but it's all going to be very civil, and we're all going to self-police because we're not trying to win a conversation.
Yeah.
When you get into debate mode and you're trying to win, you actually need an arbiter to police the rules and the timing. You get 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And it did feel like there was a lack of structure. So when the conversation started becoming contentious, the lack of structure meant that things started spiraling. And that felt very frustrating to watch. So I imagine it was frustrating for you to experience because you're kind of like, well, what's happening? Why? I thought we were doing openings.
Well, but that's what I was told. So it's like you're told. Like if you watch it, because I'm not gonna put this video out.
Well, let me answer this real quick, Nate. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to jump right on that. Okay, Treasurer Eileen is somebody who's saying, "Oh, if he's going to talk about this, I'm out of here." And then comment. And I said, and it kept going. And I'm like, "What? You're still here? I thought you were gone." So apparently they're not. They didn't like my response. Fine. You're too cowardly to do this with Bronca here, and now you want to be snarky. Your friend embarrassed himself, and you're doing it too. Okay, that's your opinion. If you don't like it, piss off, whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just giving an opportunity for an element of it to be exposed in the public. If you don't like it, cool. If Bronca wants to come on the show and have a debate, and we'll do a structured debate, that's fine too. I have no problem with Bronca coming on. I've had Bronca on and everything else. I'm just pointing out a factor of the debate, and it is what it is. And those who are saying I'm trolled by the chat, whatever.
Yeah, if people want to see it, I'll throw it on Twitter. But you can see it for yourself. It's just there. But the only issue is when you're told when you're told at the beginning, you're going to have an uninterrupted time, you're going to have uninterrupted time, and it doesn't happen. It throws you off, and it does make you frustrated because I got extremely frustrated because I keep saying you told me I had time to speak, but I don't. And then Joe started coming in, so. But like again, I said this is going to be forgotten in a couple of days. So we really,
this is kind of insider drama, but I will just say, and I didn't see it, so and I'm not going to watch a 3.5 hour stream, but people get frustrated. I know where y'all stand, but I want to say I'm really happy that Nate the lawyer is back with us. I mean, 100%. He went through some really tough medical issues. And I can't believe how well he's bounced back, and he's here. He's got the smile, which I love, and the good attitude, which is great. And that makes attitude makes a big difference. When we're talking amongst ourselves here, we're all struggling for the truth. Nobody has a monopoly on the truth. Nobody is like, I'm right and I'm perfect. If that's the attitude, get lost. We're here to try to share where we positions are and trying to see it together. But I'm just happy Nate's here with us and giving us this smile.
And then another thing I just want to make sure to highlight for the audience is whether you side with Nate or Bronca or don't know anything about this, the thing I think you should focus on was Nate coming back to the debate, because the internet, it often makes the worst version of us, right? So it's rare to see somebody come on and say like, oh, I didn't like how that went. I didn't like how I was holding myself. I'd like to do better. And let's restart this conversation in good faith. That almost never happens on the internet. If you watched me have a debate last night, it was just nothing but bad faith sniping the whole time. That's the internet. What Nate did is the exception, and I think that like we should hold ourselves to that standard. So I was very impressed with that, Nate. Truthfully, because I never see anybody do that online.
To be fair, I got to give Uncivil Law credit for that because he noticed it too, and he said, yeah, you know, because he essentially the argument was like you didn't give an opening, you couldn't give an opening because they just the kind of attack. So just go back and just have a conversation, and you don't have to. There's no debate because you weren't able to even give your side. So that's kind of when I went back, and then I did my video the next day, but that video was done in a manic mode, and then I tried to fix it, but then I'm like, I think Bronco's point, I actually agree with a lot of his points, but you know, this is on the edge, and
that's all I was gonna say is,
you
know, Nate, at the end of the day, if you're wrong, does it really matter if you didn't get a chance to speak?
It's like, okay.
And this is kind of entertainment.
I think Ryan's point though is correct though. It's like, I think, you know, because before I really started watching Ryan and some of these guys do the more debate stuff like over the past year or so, I was just kind of used to like, oh, it's just like internet. Like I'm used to the IBS era of, you know, the Kill Stream and Matt Jarbo and Jim Medeker just going at it. And it's, you know, I think it's like, oh, we'll have a debate. It's like how, you know, and I think this is where Ryan was getting to the idea of Jeremy Clarkson going, well, how hard can this be? They'll talk. And it's like, no, actually, you really have to be there. You have to moderate. You really have to govern. You have to know what you're doing. And it's not just, oh, they talk and it works. No, it's, you know, like the word war stuff that like there's actually a lot involved in running any sort of Lincoln Douglas style debate.
You mean it's not debate me, bro? Debate me, bro?
No.
All right, let's shift because I mean we did spend time on it. I just wanted to Nate, you have something else up. I'm trying to get off.
Sorry, I'm moving it. Remove. There it is.
Okay, hold on. There we go. All right, so to the actual Pretti thing at hand, because I mean I didn't mean for that to go too far sideways or anything else. Interesting update. Apparently, the family for Alex Pretti has picked up the George Floyd lawyers. So we know where that is going very specifically. Here we go. They retained the lawyers who helped prosecute the George Floyd case. So it's going to be interesting. Steve Schleicher, who served as a special prosecutor for Keith Ellison. So here we go. Now, I'm sure that that's probably the civil situation. But this is the new video that came out about that. I'm just doing the short version. Nate and I spent a lot of time on this yesterday. I'm sure that all of you have seen this, but here's 23 seconds.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis, showing a man who appears to be Alex Pretti interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy.
Well, now, Nate and I spent a lot of time on this and, you know, came to our conclusions and everything. I would like to just throw it out to all of you. This earlier incident, which I think we both, Nate and I believe, he was definitely harming the vehicle, you know, kicking the vehicle, definitely acting up, etc. Does this have any relevance to his shooting later on?
So I have a question because I'm not a former cop and I don't know the case. I haven't read the case recently, the one that Nate cited, but there is a totality of the circumstances consideration. And if it's the same officers, does that play into a factor with regard to the totality of the circumstances? Also, do we know if he was charged for malicious destruction of police property or anything like that?
He wasn't charged with anything. Matter of fact,
he was let go.
He was searched. He was armed.
I don't know if they realized he was armed, though.
Yeah, it'd have been weird because
armed, they would have reacted a lot differently.
Well, they searched him, right? Then
I don't think they were searching him. I think they realized, like, they want to go out, then they want to go round up all the heckin', you know, illegals. And if they waste time dealing with this goober, that takes time away from their mission. So I'm sure they were going to start arresting him. They're like, okay, he just smashed the taillight. We'll deal with it later. And they kicked him loose. Like if they had seen a gun on him, they would not have just have been like, run along, you little scared.
The reason why I bring it up is because in a lot of domestic violence situations where there's been multiple calls to a house, and say the police have had to interact with a particular gentleman in the past, and then they're called out on the fourth time, say they might immediately restrain the guy because they've been called out, and it's the same police officers. They know this guy. They've been to this house numerous times, and that is a situation where the totality of the circumstances plays into it. And I'm just wondering if these are the same officers, or do we know any of that? And does it factor into this, use of force scenario that Nate's been talking about?
I think it does, but you're completely right. It turns on facts we don't know, which is like, are these officers aware of what happened? Were they told by their colleagues what happened? Is there a picture of Alex Pretti on the wall? Like, because if you imagine, like, if you take it like an extreme example, like it's not Alex Pretti, right? It's regular police officers, and they're trying to arrest a guy, and his name is Shank Cop. And the last 5 times he's gotten arrested,
why is that name?
Shank the Cop, and he has a tattoo on his forehead that says, "I love shanking cops." And everybody knows that whenever you arrest this guy, he shanks the cops. The 6th time he gets arrested, I think any officer in the department is going to treat that interaction a little differently. And it wouldn't be unreasonable for them to do so because they know the dude loves shanking cops. So,
is that spelled with an SH or a C? That's the first question I have to know.
It has a silent X at the start. But yeah, I mean, that's the question. Like, were the officers personally aware of it, or were they informed of it by their colleagues? And if so, it goes into the totality of the circumstances.
What I would say is, and Nate, I think this is something you'd probably like. If you were in that situation and you were said, hey, this dude's going to probably be armed when we encounter him, I don't think they would have just jumped in and played rugby with him. They probably would have just pulled out all their guns and said, stay right where you are, lift up your shirt. Like, because if you know he's armed, you're not just going to start wrestling him unnecessarily. Hold on. I'm talking about the second incident.
Okay.
By that point, if they knew who he was and they knew he's to be armed, they probably would. You approach a known armed suspect differently than if you're just dealing with.
And based on what Sean just said, I kind of have sort of a flashback to the Don Lemon thing where these officers don't appear to be in control, and they're sort of mixing themselves up in the whole riotous situation by their conduct. And I think that should also be considered.
Let me take down some of these super chats because it's starting to pile up.
Oh,
question. You have more than what's this one? This is
we gotta uncheck them.
These are old. We checked them
before. If they're old, I don't know.
This is an old one. This is laid back law equivalent to fair and balanced panel. Oh, nice. This one, just cope from Nate. You wouldn't have brought this up if you didn't care. I didn't bring it up, but I don't know. It's maybe a little caring.
I mean, that's one of those things, though. If you talk about it, you're coping. If you don't,
if you don't talk about the coping.
Yeah.
He lost it with the manic post. I did definitely have the manic post. Not giving your side. You literally did. No, I didn't. If you I'll put the video up for you. You see it literally after I was told I was going to give it. So maybe you're right. One of the most dangerous things in any country is a scared cop with the law on their side. Interesting take. And the nation is watching. The fact that people of Minnesota is not self-policing and stopping this lawlessness behavior is shameful. So
oh my God, please stop saying that. Like, if you give advice to people and if they follow your advice, the logical entailment is that they get arrested for a felony. You've given some bad advice. Please stop telling people to interfere with federal law enforcement.
I think they mean the government is like local government is actually governing people, which they are doing now. Hilariously,
they are.
The police are now using the LRADs. They're using all the stuff the Border Patrol wasn't using. So it's actually very interesting, very ironic.
I apologize to the super chatter if I got it wrong.
Yeah, I don't think she's encouraging everybody to go out and tar joust with Antifa.
That was, I thought, by the way, I don't know if it's true. We'll see if it plays out. But Tom Homan, when he gave his press conference yesterday, he said exactly what you said, Sean. That like now they're starting to create cooperation with Minnesota to a higher degree.
Yeah,
and that's great.
And it reduces boots on the ground. It was simple.
As a matter of fact, I have a story on that, by the way. I don't know if it helps, but
the people of Minnesota, the answer was in front of you the whole time.
Well, but the thing is that these are in internal politics, and the head of the union in Minneapolis a couple days ago literally had said, "Hey, please let us." This guy here, he's saying, please let us support them. We're trained better in how to deal with an urban environment and everything that's going on, and we don't think somebody would have died if you let the locals get in, where they can call ahead of time, say,
He's
"Hey, we're going to do
100% right.
operation." But if this is somebody speaking on behalf of the cops, he's the head of the police union, and I think what may be happening, hopefully, with Holman being a law enforcement professional, I think most people would agree. I mean, he got awarded by Obama, everybody.
Yes.
They're starting to be empowered to, okay, things have gotten out of hand. Maybe we can work this out. ICE back off a little bit. We'll open the jails up. I mean, Keith Ellison apparently has agreed, I think, with Holman to open the jails and say, yeah, we'll make sure that the jails are handing over, people who have been convicted or whatever.
Give all the rapists and murderers up, and
that are already in jail.
Yeah,
as soon as you're in jail, that's it. Because it makes it so much safer for everybody. You're in jail for rape. You're not supposed to, then here's the ICE, get them out of here. So,
that's all. And if this would have happened, there would have been no issues. They would have,
Now, in fairness to Minnesota, they were already doing that for people who were convicted. So if you were convicted and in jail, then they would cooperate with ICE, but they weren't doing it for people who were detained. So like if you were charged and arrested, they would have to wait for a conviction. And obviously, if you're charged, let's say with murder or like a DUI or something, and you're also here illegally, it kind of seems like a win-win for everyone to save the expensive trial and deport you because you are here illegally. And like, why are we going to have a 6-month criminal trial to figure out whether we're going to put you in jail and have to pay for that too? Like, there does seem to be a win-win.
This one says, Pretti grabbed a pepper spray canister the agent was using to subdue someone else.
I didn't see that.
Contact.
Well, he's getting in the way of it.
Prior stuff only serves to show Pretti wasn't there to protest. I don't know.
I don't think he grabbed a pepper spray. His hand was up.
He was trying to block it. Yeah, to me, it looks like he's trying to block somebody else from being assaulted by the police.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the Eric. I had this chart somebody put together. I think is actually a very good Venn diagram.
I got it.
This is when I mentioned the super chat to you guys in the week. If you're at the protest and this is something I've been to a bunch of Second Amendment protests. You're going to do the thing. You usually have somebody who's unarmed who interacts with the police, because that way you just don't have, because when you introduce guns and cops are around, cops always get a little antsy in their pantsies, regardless of the situations. Philando Castile in Minnesota is a good one. Another guy in Minnesota who got murdered by the police up there is a guy named Amir Locke. I did a video on him way back when I first started doing YouTube. Cops get antsy in their pantsies when they know there's guns around.
Sure.
So the risk goes up.
Sure.
When the police are arresting somebody, right, wrong, or indifferent, you start interfering with the cops, they're going to jump you. Like, I think we all know this. You've been in college before. Somebody's getting arrested. You think it's bull. You think it's bull crap. You know what you don't do? You don't jump in. Because if you jump in, now you're in the game, and they are going to arrest you. And now they find a gun, and everybody panics. This is where I'm not telling you that this is the right thing that happened to him, but don't walk into the woods with a suit made out of bacon. The bears will eat you. It's not fair the bear's going to eat you. I don't want you to die, but I'm just telling you the rules of the road. Your risk of being killed skyrockets unnecessarily. If you want to be the guy who's carrying the gun because I'm here to protect people from the evil Gestapo, be the guy who's standing there watching it and ready to intervene when they actually are going to murder somebody, not shove them on the ground.
Well,
that's like, if you're
Sean, I don't think we're disagreeing with that part. We're not disagreeing with the risk. It's just the super chatter literally said that he grabbed the pepper, the pepper spray or the can. He didn't actually do that. I mean, he could be interfering, and I think that there's arguments to be made for that. Yeah. But we were just addressing, specificity when you're getting into the details. I think is kind of important.
I would agree. I would agree there.
Yeah. I think it's important for us to maybe watch the entire video because a lot happens in this video. And my opinion about this video is it cuts both ways. It cuts against and it cuts both for the officers. So let's watch. It's just like a minute.
Well, no, this is the second one, not the first one.
Well,
Yeah,
it's overall. This is the long one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one from
does it have them both
the
together?
kicking. The kicking.
Yeah, this shows the whole sequence.
Observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to
never
their
mind.
vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight. An agent then got out of the vehicle, grabbed him, and pushed him to the ground.
Which everybody, I think, would agree this is appropriate here.
Yeah,
he did kick the vehicle.
Yeah.
During the altercation, agents fired tear gas
Now they're searching him
and
here.
pepper balls into the
I don't
know.
That's a fill up. That's a
crowd.
search.
Are they searching him or are they trying to arrest him?
That's a search. Well, they don't arrest him. They're searching.
Well, I think they're trying to wrestle him.
They
subdue him,
continue
but
to hold the man down
See, they're
before they
searching,
retreat,
search.
and he walks away.
And then
I
they're
think
gonna
they're
let him out.
taking his coat out to figure out if they were going to arrest him.
It
I don't
could be a
think they're-
Terry stop.
Yeah, but
too bad
Yeah,
for
well,
him.
I'm
He
gonna say
wasn't
Nate-
arrested.
Well, Nate,
Yeah.
but while you're like, I mean, I'll defer to you on this, but if I'm trying to figure, like, we're scrumming right now, I don't think they're searching as they're trying to like subdue him, and then I assume they looked at it and were told, we're not arresting this guy. We got bigger, like, we're here to do our job. Let this goober go. We'll do, it's not worth the trouble.
Yeah, well, I think you got three cops here, right? You take them to the ground. The first thing you got to work about is officer safety, right? Officer safety. Is he armed? You don't know what this guy has. So I think that's why you see the coat come off. People are, and in these type of hot situations, you're trying to do two things: compliance, and you're trying to do safety. That's why in the later video,
but I think his
you saw that-
compliance is. I mean, you don't frisk him before he's subdued.
No,
because,
you're
like,
trying to subdue, but you also, but at the same time, like in the second video, you see the officers are trying to subdue him, but you see the other officer looking to see, and then they start searching him while the others are trying to subdue him. So sometimes you can do both, but here I think they're trying to subdue and search at the same time, and that's why the search may be shit. But let me get you to.
I mean, just one thing there, Nate. I would have to assume I'm not law enforcement, but I would have to assume they're searching because imagine if you didn't search, you tackled the guy, you rough him up, you stand up and walk away, and he does have a gun. I kind of feel like you kind of have to know if they have a gun after you've tackled him because you might use it if you let him go.
Then what's the purpose of any of this anyway? Throwing him to the ground.
I think they thought they were going to arrest him, and then I think they were told, we're not going to deal with it. We're going to exercise discretion. We don't need to arrest him because if we arrest him, now we got to go book him, take him to jail, or interact with the police. That's time we're not able to do our job. And it's also time now they're not working with the rest of their unit. Now they're cut in half in force. We got to let him go.
It's a tough sell that this is not that they're not going to. It would just be. It would be total incompetent if you're not searching someone you got on the ground who's just destroyed.
Well, he's still fighting them the whole time.
Yeah, that's true. Let's continue. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Pretti was wearing on the day he was killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband.
I mean, notice if he turned away and they saw that gun, they wouldn't just have the paintball guns up anymore. They would have dropped the paintball guns and grabbed their pistols.
I didn't see the gun. Where is it?
It's right there. It's right there.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
He's to be honest with you, he's essentially that's open carry right now. But maybe your officers aren't looking. But and again, it's there's a difference. Like the Graham standards is about what a reasonable officer would do. Reasonable officers, the first thing you're doing, especially with suspects, is you're looking at the waistband. Like they literally train you. Look at waistbands, look at bulges and pockets and things of that nature. Weird things. So if these officers aren't doing that, then that may go to a training issue because that's the first thing they tell us. Look to see if you see something, then you have to react to it.
These don't have very good visibility in the middle of them too.
And it's not like he's going anywhere. It's like he runs out of the street.
No.
Right? He's turning around. Once he turns around, the gun is clearly
he
visible.
continues to stand at the scene.
He takes his stuff off. Like that's open carry.
Yeah, and it's openly displayed now. And that, like I said, I think they would have interacted differently at that point if they had seen it.
On the day he was killed, the Department of Homeland Security claims Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, approached officers holding a handgun.
I got to say, while we're watching this, because this came up before Gene's play. I don't know if it's this person or somebody else, but I really don't think this is AI generated, or every news source, everybody out there would say, hey, that's AI generated, because it makes him look bad. And in general, most of the media is definitely in favor of Pretti. So I understand the AI is out of control, but I do not believe this is AI generated video.
There's another angle diagonally across the intersection that films this, which it's the exact same thing. So this is not AI.
At some point, I want to and I appreciate what's being done right here, but at some point, I think we need to talk about the fact that this is a low-level communist insurgency, and that this is chaos by design.
Yes.
That this protester, as well as all these other people, are part of an organized group to set up exactly what happened.
Yes.
And that this death is to create a martyr, and it is a tactic that they are doing. This crowd is not just some random innocent little group protesting thing.
Yes.
That is garbage. We are being set up, and the narrative being all focused around this nurse who was killed is all a lie, and this is creating optics, creating martyrs for the left, and that the context of this is not to be forgotten. I think the bigger story here is not this I think gray area shooting of these cops. It's the fact that this situation has been created by the left in Minnesota, and it's very organized. It is very multi-layered, and it is designed to get us talking about this shooting as some sort of martyrdom, when in fact that's exactly what the intent is.
Well, Steve, I think one thing that somewhat gives the game away, to your point, is we were talking about cooperation earlier. What's the common denominator in both of those shooting situations? If you had local PD who is empowered to arrest or detain for traffic infractions, jaywalking, blocking, Renee Good blocking the road with her car, you're in the street waving traffic through, why are you protesting in the street, get to the sidewalk, but neither shoot happens, right? There's a crowd control and enforcing traffic regulations, things of this nature. It's the role of local police. And when you remove that support, you increase the risk that there's going to be violent confrontation between ICE officers who are more of almost a paramilitary group than they are a local PD. I can
speak directly to what Steve is saying. I actually have it pulled up. This is from a book, Under the Old Regime by Richard Pipes, about Russia and the communist revolution. So we're going back about 100 plus years, but it is all in fact here. The imperial government invariably overreacted to radical challenges, carrying out mass arrests where restraint would have been in order, and exiling where arrest and brief detention would have been sufficient punishment. By various bureaucratic police devices, which will be detailed in the following chapter, the government increasingly restricted the civil liberties of all the Russians, alienating law-abiding citizens who otherwise would have had no truck with the opposition. The radicals, having quickly learned how beneficial to their interests government overreaction was, developed elaborate techniques of provocation, that is, of baiting the police into brutality as a means of gaining public sympathy for themselves and their cause. The net effect was for the public opinion to shift steadily towards the left. That's what you're talking about, right, Steve?
Absolutely. And the reason is because why are we focused? This is really a gray area shooting. It's a difficult, I don't see anybody on the right celebrating the guy's death. I mean, it's a
there are a lot of people.
There are some, yeah. The whole pretty good meme that's going around. How's it going? Pretty good.
All right, but the thing is that what about the girl that was killed on the subway, or there's so many killings that are ignored. There's so many things that are much more brutal but it's we're going to pick and choose the ones that help our political cause. This was by design. This is a anticipatory thing. When you withdraw the local law enforcement protection of these ICE agents, they are going after and hunting down ICE agents. They're doxing them. Did you see the James O'Keefe video where it's like, this is a very organized. They track every ICE agent. They go in, they attacking the hotels where they're staying, attacking restaurants, trapping people in cars who are suspected of being sympathetic to somebody who disagrees with them. This is a very bad situation that's being created. And yet we are all focused on this police shooting, which is difficult. And we're lawyers and we look at it from a criminal standpoint and all that. But the bigger picture is much more problematic from a news standpoint, because like, okay, whether this guy was justified or shooting or not is not important in the big picture for the country. But whether this organized insurrection is successful in defeating federal law enforcement is an important issue for the country. That's why I feel like we're kind of getting propagandized by following down and analyzing this shooting from a legal standpoint rather than focusing on the bigger picture, which is more important from a news standpoint.
The legal part of that I've been wondering about, and I don't know if you guys have thought about this at all. You've been talking about the organized resistance, which is pretty much done through this Signal chat, right? There's allegations that certain Minnesota officials are in the Signal chat. I know there's one, I forgot his name. Is it Falconer, who we know was a Minnesota state official who was in the Signal chat, but most other people have denied it. My question is, if we know impeding an officer, forcibly interfering with an officer is an offense, is a federal offense, right? What would they need to say in the Signal chat for it to be a conspiracy to interfere with federal officers, right? Because if you say we're going to show up and protest, that's not it. But if you said, let's get there and we're going to box their cars in.
Well, they have training. They have actual training to do that. So I would argue that would go into the conspiracy.
Yeah. Like we also have to look at the context. I mean, I always think about the Reginald Denny, but there's more recent examples of basically people getting trapped in cars, pulled out of cars and beaten to a pulp. And then they surround cars, stop cars of just normal citizens going about their day in Minnesota. And it's like, you're a Trump supporter, you're MAGA, or you're whatever, pro-ICE. Or
they stopped a camera guy thinking he was
and
ICE.
people are afraid they get run over by the car, and people are like, oh my God, somebody's getting run over a car. It's like, well, what do you expect? People are in fear. I don't want to get trapped in my car by a crazy mob who's pointing at me saying I'm a heretic. This is a problem. The lack of law in the local level, which is a conscious decision by the governor and the prosecutor's office, and the excuse by the juries that let people get away with this sort of behavior, is a real problem in the country. And I mean, that's the bigger point, not this whether this shooting was justified or not, because I think it's a gray area. Even the Don Lemon thing is a distraction, because this is an important issue confronting the country. We have not had this type of organized insurrection really since 1861.
Well, I disagree with that, because I remember the Summer of Love and a whole bunch of other things. And I would say this: the Signal chat, I think, is a problem, but they always coordinate. From the civil rights movement, they were coordinating on this, except the methods and means were different. And the COVID stuff, text messages and all that stuff. And I'm assuming BLM, they had a whole network and professional protesters to go certain places and things of that nature. So I think this is just the next thing, the next big thing that they want to protest. But I also think that, unfortunately, the administration has just played this wrong, because Obama kicked out more people, but he did it so quietly. Now,
well, in fairness,
he didn't have that resistance. He didn't have the resistance.
He pass. He could do whatever hell he wanted.
Well, and it's even more insidious than that, to be honest with you, because in his first term, a lot of his numbers were turnaways at the border, but within the United States, most of his deportations were the result of something called the Secure Communities Program.
Yes.
And the Secure Communities Program was a program by which local governments could cooperate with ICE. And that's how he got his numbers so high, because he had full cooperation. And the Secure Communities Program was killed from the left by the Sanctuary City movement. Who said that it was too much of an imposition. So they killed it. And then once it was gone, if you don't have cooperation, the only way to enforce federal law is with federal officers. So so basically, if you want to see this moving in real time, you'll see we're going to kill the cooperation. That's going to lead to raids, then we're going to complain about the raids, and then we're going to organize resistance to the raids. So you can kind of see the escalation. It's just you need like a 15, 20-year window to understand how this has evolved. But it definitely has. And this is the problem that the raids are trying to solve by and large.
Yes, and this is why I keep pointing out to people on Twitter. It's like, imagine if we didn't have sanctuary cities, how this would have gone, and it wouldn't have been
So
an
much
issue.
easier.
And Steve, I will say, I didn't want to bring it up, but yes, you're speaking my love language by talking about the communist insurgency here. But no, it's something I talk about, like going through it it's something I talked about a couple nights ago, though, on Monday. This is like 2020 was a dry run for these guys. Like, they have a very well dedicated structure. They do their reporting, and it doesn't take much to organize people. And, all the people are organized, chase around the cars and honking on horns. Like, that's all easy stuff. You get people to do it. They can go, like, their shift changes. People are signing in, signing out, doing it around their schedules, picking up their kids, dropping off their kids. Like, it actually is a well-functioning low-level insurgency where they have a lot of local and popular support. And they're unique in the sense of they have local governmental support. So, like, ICE going into Minneapolis is kind of like the 82nd Airborne Division going into the Korengal Valley in Afghanistan. Like, they're walking into a Taliban stronghold, and they just went and duked it out with them. And, the results are, I think they got the Taliban to bend a little bit here because it's still continuing just under a different intensity.
But, and the test of what you're saying, though, is that this group, and I think it's an important point, it's like they're jumping from issue to issue to issue. The issue is not the point. The point is the revolution, the destruction, the bringing down of America. That's the objective. This is simply another battle in that thing. It's like, okay, tomorrow there's going to be another thing. And we've had a whole line of protest after protest after protest. That's some new cause that the same groups go from cause to cause to cause. But the ultimate revolutionary ideal is what they're seeking. And I mean, that's a big problem. And it's only happening, note, in Minnesota. It's a smaller group. And so they're focusing their energy there on the place where they have a friendly governor, a friendly AG who's following their will. They're not going, you don't see this stuff in Florida or any other really many states. Now there's usually it's in deep blue, friendly political jurisdictions where they know that the consequences for their actions will not be cracked down on because the prosecutor won't prosecute them and the juries won't convict them.
Well, this is why I wanted to talk about whether or not there's a conspiracy theory, like a federal conspiracy theory that you could bring in these cases, because Nate made a good point earlier. Like, you think about the 1960s, like the civil rights movement, of course, there's going to be organized sit-ins, right? But an organized sit-in isn't a federal conspiracy. You're not violating any federal laws. You might be violating a local law, but you're not violating a federal law when you do a sit-in, right? But the difference between saying we're going to organize a protest, we're going to organize a rally, we're going to organize a vigil, and saying, on the other hand, we're going to organize attacking ICE vehicles, right? Like, the latter is clearly a conspiracy to commit a federal crime. And there are First Amendment issues here that are significant. I don't want to pretend that there aren't, but that seems to me like the crime that the federal government should be investigating right now.
But see,
is there some kind of broader network that we can charge rather than
these networks change names and change shapes depending, and it's an organization that's tossed out and renamed, whatever the latest du jour is. But here's the thing.
Yeah, and
it's a lot more sophisticated than what people, I think, we're acknowledging. I mean, when you look at these protest groups, there's at least 4 layers of people who are given tasks and given assignments. There's the innocent protesters up on the front line who say, oh my God, oh my God. There's the agitators who are just behind them who go in and strike and then run into the crowd. There's the people who interfere with law enforcement who chase that. There's the people with the phones, the reporters. There's the lawyers. There's the organizations that bail them out of jail and protect them. There's the cell phone networks that report on what's happening. There's a lot of sophistication. That's why it's an insurgency. And I mean, I think that when we just say, oh, it's some isolated thing, it's a person. No, this is a very organized tactic that is endorsing this type of violence. They want this type of martyr. I mean, people are not fully aware. It's not reported in the media, but these tactics are very sophisticated and very multi-level and organized. And I do think it is conspiratorial, but I'm not sure exactly. I mean, as far as the solution, we need to acknowledge what's actually going on.
And that's why I started and maybe I should have not gone in lawyer mode on this and deprogrammed and been in teacher mode instead. So I'll do that. The reason I was focusing on federal conspiracy law is exactly what you just said. It's decentralized and people have discrete roles. But in federal conspiracy law, if you can prove there is a conspiracy, you can attribute the felony of one conspirator to everybody who is acting in furtherance of the conspiracy. So,
Rico.
Yeah, it lets you get around the decentralization, right? Because you're like, okay, these 3 people boxed in an ICE vehicle. That's obviously obstruction. But if they were coordinated by these 15 or 20 other people who were supporting them and planning this operation, then suddenly you can charge 20 people instead of 3. And I mean, I wonder, I have not been impressed by the Trump administration's savvy in bringing criminal prosecutions so far. So I'm not exactly confident they're going to pull this off. Like
just say Pam Bondi. Come on, just say Pam Bondi. Just say it. We all do, my friend.
Honestly, I feel like he has 2 legal teams.
Yeah.
If you see like the sophistication that he has around like executive authority, military strikes, who found the Alien Enemies Act? Like that's a deep cut, right? Like he has one team of lawyers who are super sophisticated and thoughtful.
Stephen Miller.
Yeah, and then he's got another
Stephen
team of
Miller.
lawyers who's just like it's a clown show. They bring indictments. They don't even have an authorized attorney. Like, I mean, it's wild.
Ryan.
Yeah, that was so crazy.
Ryan, keep in mind, it's Stephen Miller. And by the way, Stephen Miller's the guy who won Duke Lacrosse. So a lot of people don't know that deep cut exists, but and he's, a very controversial figure, but I'm just telling you. So when you say about the policies about Venezuela, that's Stephen Miller and crew who are up in the administration. But when it comes to the crime and punishment angle, the Bondi, I agree with you. Now, I want to shift and get one more story before we go.
Can we just knock down these super chats because they're usually
100%. While you're knocking them down, we will remind everybody once again. Hey, we're trying to get Ryan here to over 1,000. There's still 1,200 plus people watching. I'm hoping that some of you consider heading over there. He's at 816 subscribers. We're starting to kind of close in. It's really easy. I think you guys will enjoy it. So, please consider subscribing. Nate's going to read some super chats as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do it. Listen, bass player, thank you so much because you've been super chatting. So thank you so much. Well, if local law enforcement would do their job, the feds wouldn't have to do crowd control. But a certain governor told them to stand down. That's true. But you can't force local law enforcement to enforce federal law, unfortunately.
It's just you're not enforcing federal laws, but it's like, hey, your streets have disorder on them. So
yeah. Here's what hold on. Thanks for Steve pointing out the insurgency going down and how Trump, I believe, dropped the ball. True fact, a lot of our Minnesota countrymen are communist.
Yes. There's a strong, very historic left-wing presence from the farmers, the parties back in the early 1900s that run in alignment with the American Communist Party.
Yes.
Minnesota is very a well-known leftist stronghold.
Yes, and remember, DFL stands for Democrat, Farmer, and Labor. Farmers with their ever-present sickle, and Labor with their ever-present hammer. It's almost like that was meant based on the way they worded it.
It's a distraction, so you don't talk about leering centers and billions of dollars being funneled to listed terrorist organizations. That's a good.
To be fair, they're not the only. Like as I say, American immigrants have a rich history of funneling money to Hezbollah or the IRA. Like we have a strong immigrant heritage of doing that.
Don't be Reginald Denny if you're driving in or near a protest. Don't stop.
Yes.
Okay. Or keep your doors locked. Can these co-conspirators be charged with felony murder if someone dies? I'm assuming.
I mean, that would be like in a world, yes, locking up a bunch of commies would be hilarious, but no, not in reality.
Well, I'll say this. it all depends on what happens. Because I know there's that wild case from California where the guy lends his car to a friend who says they're going to go rob a bank. He's sleeping at like 2 o'clock in the morning. They go rob the bank the next day. He's like 20 miles away. And because he gave them the car, they hit him with felony murder. He's doing like life.
But he knew they were going.
He knew they were going to go rob.
And I think that changes it. Like, if
and the other thing to think about is that because I'm talking federal conspiracy law, that means you're doing federal felony murder law, and federal felony murder law is a lot stricter than. I think Nate, you talked about this. Like Minnesota's got 242. Yeah, Minnesota's got a super loose felony murder statute.
Oh my god!
Yeah, like basically
no murder doctrine, no nothing. It's
like I talked to Nate today. If Nate gets run over by a bus later, I could get convicted in Minnesota. So that's. But federal law is a little tighter.
And they have no murder doctrine, which is crazy, because every murder is an assault. But like with George Floyd, they charged Chauvin with the felony assault, and then. There it is, murder. Ryan will hit 27,000 in a short time. Then Sean, congrats on 27,000. Boom!
Oh, good job, Sean. Yeah. That's awesome.
I like how they threw some shade in your congratulations. That's congrats, Sean.
Yes, I have the. When I started this, it's a hell I've built. That's a beautiful part about it.
All right, I want to shift to one last story before we go in.
15.
Oddly enough, it ties to damn Minnesota again in its own way. And that's Luigi Mangione, who shot down the United Healthcare CEO. Where is United Healthcare located? Where's the CEO from? Minnesota. So,
yes. And a guy from Minnesota tried to break him out of jail.
Yeah.
Yes. And posing as an FBI agent. But now the worries aren't as bad. The death penalty has been tossed. A federal judge has thrown out the federal charges to give him the death penalty. I would love to hear your comments. I'm kind of not personally surprised because I felt like the whole stalking thing to try to incorporate it to get the death penalty when it was a state case, I was kind of confused, but you guys could tell me where I was wrong.
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
A couple things happened too. He also lost the suppression hearing.
Yeah.
That's so the evidence they found when they arrested him, that's all staying in. There's a lot of things that came out today.
But he won the big one.
Yeah, he won the big one. Yes. I'd argue the suppression motion's the bigger one because that means like he could have gone home. But
that's true.
Yeah, no, it's. I think there's a lot of things that happen here, and I'm trying to pull it up because I just had it up earlier. The actual.
Well, can I ask because I don't know the reasoning behind the striking of the death penalty. Does anybody aware of the reasoning of the court?
Vaguely, I won't claim I skimmed it, but I haven't digested it. My vague understanding, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, because it was a skim job, is that to get the death penalty, the stalking crime, they needed the stalking crimes to qualify as federal crimes of violence in order to translate up statutorily, and it was just a statutory interpretation question. Like, does the state crime qualify as a crime of violence under the federal standard? And the judge concluded it didn't. I am not equipped to weigh in on whether or not that was the correct decision because I don't know the laws in question enough to have an opinion on that.
So I found the part I was looking at here. The court determined that because the stalkings aren't crimes of violence because the force element, the way it's worded, could be committed through reckless conduct. So with that, you kind of lose the intention. Like, we can't get the death penalty on somebody who was just reckless. There needs to be more knowing conduct is what they.
Well, there was knowing contact. If I understand Ryan's point, and I think I do, is that it's a technical statutory interpretation and application.
Yeah, and that's what they're saying, though. It's just the
and the thing is, this polarizes everybody. And as you well know, I'm about my death penalty views and writings, etc.
Big fan. You're a big fan.
Yeah, I'm not. But the thing that people, and it's before we all get hyper polarized on this, I mean, I don't think that most of the time, and and I'm in Florida, and I don't know, so many courts are just doing their job and applying the law. I mean, we are focused on some of these hyper-partisan courts, those make news and those are interesting, but a 95 or more percent of the judges are just, they got 1,000 cases, they're churning them through, and they apply the law, and it's fair and it's just, and this is the outcome in a judge applying the law. I'm just saying that, and the thing is, the result of that is that the guy is facing life in prison without parole. Boy, you bunch of softies. I mean, it's like, it's not the end of the world. The case is not getting thrown out. The evidence was admitted. And, but everything has to turn into a hyper-partisan shouting match. And there's a lot of good judges out there, a lot of good prosecutors, a lot of good defense attorneys who are doing their job in a workmanlike manner, and the law is getting applied appropriately. So I don't think just because I want the death penalty on this guy and he's getting away with murder. Well, the guy's facing life in prison without parole. That's a lot.
Yeah, and this is, to be clear, I agree with Steve. I get a whiff of partisanship on a highly technical issue like this, because the question isn't even what did he do. The question is, what was he charged with? And he was charged with this stalking offense. And then to get the death penalty, it has to qualify as a crime of violence, not because of what he did, but is the stalking law a crime of violence under the federal definition? And even saying that out loud, you can see how stalking might not be violent, right?
Yeah, they surveilling somebody.
Well, they also point out the court points out that the way the stalking they're using, technically you can threaten self-harm, and that counts under the stalking statute. Well, we're not going to give the guy a death penalty because he was, that statute can be interpreted so many ways. And yeah, it was statutory, and like I said, the judge kind of goes through it. It's really long, but it's interesting how it breaks it down there. So yeah,
isn't it fair to say that the only reason that the feds got involved is that New York doesn't have the death penalty for this particular crime, and they're like, hey, we really want to up the charges, and this is me as just a civilian saying, I always thought that, they're kind of shoveling it in because the state didn't have a death penalty thing. So it may be a little weaker than
maybe. And we talked about the unitary executive and the politics and the DOJ and all that. And that may be, but I am extremely happy that we have an independent judiciary that is going to look at these statutes and apply them the way they're written, and give the benefit of the doubt to an accused. And I am absolutely, this guy should go away for life. And I agree that this murder is evil and terrible, but we should always look to the courts to be fair and impartial and blind to the perpetrator. And I just think that we need to we want to be in the place where we respect our courts for what they're doing. And the fact that they're writing out exactly why and the reasoning, it gives us as commentators and as the members of the public the ability to look at the reasoning and apply the common law and apply rationality, and hopefully use our brains and our rational thoughts rather than our reptilian tribalism that is so oftentimes what we see playing out in the media.
Why are you against reptiles?
With that being said, I want to do one more shout out to natural law with Ryan. Please, do you have it up there?
Hold on. I am so sorry. I will get it there.
No, I got it. Don't worry. Keep doing what you're doing. I got it. Let me.
And I'm being greedy. I want to shout out myself at the same time.
Hey, man,
we're getting to the end of the show here, so let's spread the wealth everywhere.
Yes,
definitely,
Ryan. Everybody's shadow.
Hit the thing below too, please. I'm covering you, so let me go to the right. There you go.
Here is Ryan's channel. Please, if you guys can. He's almost at 1,000. We want to at least get him monetized. That's what we're looking for. Link is in the chat right now. So I guess everybody just sub. Yes, show this man some love. As you can see, his legal.
Help me keep the trend alive. Laid back law. Keep it alive.
And honestly, thank you guys so much. I can confidently say this has probably been the highest subscriber day of the channel's life so far already. So thank you all so much. And yeah, I think honestly, if you like this content, you're probably going to like my content. There's an overlap here, let's say.
Well, also, I want to give a shout out to our boy Potentially Criminal, because he is So before we get out of here, Sean, tell us what you're doing. What's going on, man?
Well, tonight we are going to be covering some things from a guy named Russell Greer, who has filed a bunch of serial lawsuits on some people. Also, we're going to be covering the guy used to be on Howard Stern, Stuttering John, was suing a couple of people for making fun of him. His case is kind of crashing and burning.
Ooh,
ever so slowly. What's that?
Can you send me that info?
Yeah, sure. I'll send you stuff on that. And there was a just kind of covering that and covering a couple different things, rounding up some like lolcow stuff tonight as far as some law things are concerned. We just finished the Brennan Banfield trial. The guy who's with the help of his Brazilian nanny murdered his wife, and the guy they set up to stage the fake sexual assault that they planned to put the murder together. He just testified, and that went really bad because his boss came in as a surprise witness and testified against him. So,
man,
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, but he's an IRS agent, so don't feel too bad for him.
Don't feel too bad for him.
Okay,
Steve, do you
modulate
want
the
me to
response.
share anything?
Yeah.
You have like a link you want me to share anything?
He's actually doing a real job. He's like a real lawyer. But
I want anybody who doesn't like me and doesn't like what I'm saying to block me and not follow me and unsubscribe.
Well, don't forget to go to AUS tonight. They're going to be speaking about all these hot topics. Eric, throw up the AUS link in the chat. So and thank you guys.
Just America's Untold Story. I don't have it handy, but thank you.
America's Untold Story. And thank you guys so much for joining us and being with our guests. We'll see you next week. Remember, Thursday, Friday, that's our live streams, and we're going to make it happen. So let me see. It says, last one, Nate, are you going to do a follow-up video on the Massey sentencing case? Yeah, I was looking at that case too.
Yeah.
For Sonia Massey. It's interesting because I think a cop got 20 years, which I can say. So, but we'll see, because I know he has an interesting appeal that he's making. So we'll see what's going on with that. All right, guys. Thanks again for stopping by.